I didn't think it was appropriate to do my regular intro, so hello everyone. Today I'm going to be doing a story time about the time I was groomed. I never told anyone this, ever. I only told my parents this, and it's because I was ashamed of how I acted in that situation for the longest time. I just couldn't believe that I didn't realize what was happening to me. It completely flew over my head. But eventually, 5 years later, I realized that it was not my fault in any way that someone tried to take advantage of me and knew that I was vulnerable. Child grooming is a real issue and it happens way more often than you think it does. In case you're not familiar with what grooming is, it is basically when an adult tries to establish a relationship with a minor in order to later on take advantage of them in some way. While I'm so lucky and so thankful that I didn't experience anything too severe, I think it's disturbing to think about what could have happened if the situation hadn't been stopped earlier. I wanted to give a little content warning. So while there may not be anything extremely graphic about this situation, I'm still going to be talking about how I was groomed. And I'm also going to be pointing out some red flags throughout the story time that I only notice in retrospect, in the hopes that anyone who's potentially vulnerable to this or may even be experiencing this right now will know what to look out for. With that said, this story time may remind people of some memories that they may not want to remember, and it is perfectly fine if you want to click out right now. I don't want you to feel obligated to watch this, no matter how important you think the issue is or like how much you want to support me. I am perfectly fine with you clicking out. If you're not in a good place to watch this whatsoever, just leave and come back whenever you're ready. Or even if you're never ready, that's perfectly fine too. I just wanted to get this out. I wanted people to see this and also share it with anyone that may need it. That's the end of the content warning, and now we'll get on to the actual story time. So to give you guys a little background on where I was emotionally, this happened in the summer after my freshman year of high school, and at this time I felt like I didn't necessarily belong anywhere. I didn't find my core group of friends, which I did not expect to find within like my first year of high school, but obviously it still made me feel lonely. I never really had a super close relationship with my parents, so that was another source of strain for me. In addition, I was 15. I was at that age where you hear about who has crushes on who. No one had crushes on me or was romantically interested in me in any way. So that just made me feel even more lonely, along with the fact that I didn't find any super solid friends. The friends from high school that I have now, I did not get close with them until like later on in high school or even after we graduated. Along with all of that, the friends that I had from middle school weren't reaching out to me as often as I wanted, just because they had their own lives. Obviously, I didn't blame them for that in any way. The point of me saying all of this is that I was a particularly vulnerable teenager at the time that this happened, and that's a very important part of the story because it's the foundation of all this. I just wanted some friends. I just wanted someone to talk to and someone that cared about me. At this time, I still lived in New York City, Queens to be specific, in case you were wondering. So on one of these summer days, I decided to go out for a walk, as I usually did during that time. I thought the weather was nice, so I just wanted to go outside and enjoy it, as anyone would want to. Since I had been taking the subway for the past year, since I was in high school, I lived in Queens and my high school was in Brooklyn, so I had to commute basically all of the time, like every weekday. So since I was very used to that, used to be walking around alone and everything like that, I went outside alone because I was just so used to it and I didn't think anything of it. Obviously, I had some ounce of common sense, but on this particular day, I wasn't feeling too hot, and I went on a walk just so that I could let out some steam and have a change of environment since I had been stuck at home all day. I go out for my walk, and I'm walking down the main street in my neighborhood, and I'm just aimlessly wandering because I didn't exactly have a plan of where I wanted to go or what I wanted to do. So I am just aimlessly walking. I pass by Walgreens and I think, hey, I want to get some new makeup. Let's go in there. I was 15 at the time and I had just started wearing makeup, so I wanted to experiment with some new products. So I walk into the Walgreens and the first thing I do is go to the makeup section because that is what I had in mind. I pick out some makeup products, take the ones that I like, and then start wandering around the rest of the store, just checking out whatever they had in there. I'm just doing some more wandering across all the aisles when I get a text from my mom. and she says that she needs some cleaner for the bathroom because she ran out and she had been cleaning the bathroom at the time that I left. So she needed some new cleaner right now. And since she already knew I was outside, she figured she would just ask me to pick up some before I go back home, which makes sense. So I tell her, great, what kind do you want? And I go into this whole conversation through text with her. Since I'm focused on this text conversation with my mom, I stop walking around, and at this point I'm standing still. I'm just standing in the candy aisle talking to my mom through text when this guy, we will call him Coco, comes into the aisle and he walks up to where I am and he says, hey, you're in the way, do you mind moving over? And I'm like, oh, sorry, I'll move over. And I just walk a little bit farther down the aisle and stand there talking to my mom. He takes his Twizzlers since that's what he was trying to pick up and that's where I was standing in front of at the time he told me to move. He takes his Twizzlers and I thought that was just going to be the end of our interaction. But no, because this man decides to walk back to where I am farther down the aisle and strike a conversation with me. He was not the stereotypical creepy guy that your parents tell you to stay away from. He was very charming. He came off as a very nice, friendly person. And to top that all off, he was objectively attractive, which, may affect some young teenage girls' minds, such as myself at the time. I'm sorry if you can hear some background noise. My siblings are just playing downstairs. But basically, the point is that this guy was charming and attractive, and I was definitely very swayed by that fact, especially given the circumstances I was in. Nothing about him seemed like a red flag to me. Even his age, I didn't know exactly how old he was, but I assumed he was like 17 or something, because he definitely looked older than me, but not super old, if that makes any sense. Like, he didn't look above legal age at all. I really should have thought something was off when this sweet, charming, attractive guy is talking to me out of all people. I was like literally in my PJs, no makeup, messy hair looking. I don't know what was going on. Like, I don't know why I thought he was interested in me like that. Conveniently, in this conversation, he never hinted at anything that might have suggested his age. Like, he didn't say if he was in high school or like he wasn't wearing any sort of high school merch, anything like that. So he starts off this convo by saying, hey, sorry about that, I just gotta have my Twizzlers, which was a pretty funny comment. I thought it was a pretty funny comment. So I'm like, haha, yeah, you're right, I love them too. And that's the thing about me, I love candy. That's just a little side fact right there. I thought that was a pretty fun conversation starter, so we ended up talking a little bit more in that store. We exchanged names, we had some more small talk, which I can't remember exactly off the bat of my head, but it's not very important to the story. The point is that we had made small talk. Eventually he says, hey, I gotta go right now, but can I get your number first? And me, being the dummy that I am, I said totally, and gave him my number. He left right after, so I knew at least he wasn't trying to follow me or anything like that. I didn't think anything would happen after I gave him my number, so I just went about my day. I got my mom her bathroom cleaner, I checked out all my items, and left to go home. Then, later that day, he texts me, and he's like, hey, I had so much fun talking to you today. And I'm like, yeah, it was fun, because again, I did not get any weird vibes from him at all whatsoever. So in this convo, he asked me some things that are a little bit more personal than what we had talked about in Walgreens. He asked me how old I am and what I like to do for fun, stuff like that. So it was still pretty surface level, but you could see that he was starting to dig in deeper. So I made the mistake of saying my real first name, my real age, and my actual hobbies. Specifically, I told him I love to explore the city, which is a dangerous thing to tell a stranger because you don't know if they're going to follow you to said places. You don't know what they're gonna do with that information, with your age, with your name, any of that. My 15-year-old mind genuinely thought that I was just making friends. And again, that is the scary part. He was trying to catch me when he knew I was vulnerable. Coco knew that I wasn't aware of what he was doing, yet he continued to do it. So back to the text conversation, he tells me that his name is Coco and he is literally 21 years old in college. I don't remember which college he said, but he said that he's in college. In college. Why are you talking to a 15-year-old girl in college? Why are you coming up to some random 15-year-old girl in Walgreens as a 21-year-old? Like, let me know. I don't understand it. I'm 20 right now, and I don't understand how someone close to my age could ever do that. I do not think about walking up to random teenagers in public places and be like, hey, let me get your number. No, I don't think of any of that. Because that's not normal and that is not right. You should not be doing that. Just to clarify, Coco is the literal name that he told me he had. So I don't even know if it's his real name or his fake name. I don't know. What's an even bigger problem is I don't know if he's just lying about all of that and he's even older. Like, I really do not know. But I know when he told me his age, that was the first red flag I saw. I wish that I had realized it sooner so that I completely avoided that entire situation from even happening in the first place. But he was also talking about how he was into film and fashion, etc. And, you know, definitely trying to establish a connection with me. And I'm like, oh, that's great. I like that too. Blah, blah, blah. And we keep talking like this. And I give little pieces of info to him gradually. Even just giving him my number and my name was already too much information to give to a random stranger. So these conversations would continue to happen and he would try to reach out to me every other day or so. He would always be the one initiating it. And another thing, he would also call me sweetheart, beautiful, like pet names like that. And that is weird. Why are you saying that to a teenage girl? And you are a full-blown adult. I don't know why you're saying that. That was the second red flag I saw, and that was a big one. I don't even know why I didn't just block him and end it right then and there. I think the reason why I didn't is because I rationalized it. I made excuses for him. I thought, oh, maybe he's just being this overly friendly person. But no, he is not. He's just trying to take advantage of you. No. No person that I have ever met calls their friend sweetheart unironically. It all just goes back to the same thing. Like, why are you talking to me in the first place like that? What is going on in your head that makes you want to do these things? The teenagers that I talk to, they are teenagers that I have mentored, tutored, people from high school that I just kept connections with once I graduated from there. I don't talk to any of them like that, and I never will, because I am not weird and I am not insane. So the next time we texted was a couple of days later. Like I said, he would always initiate the text and he would always try to make sure he was reaching out to me every other day, like more or less. Like I mentioned before, the questions that he would ask during each following conversation would get more invasive. So for this conversation, since I mentioned in the last one that I like to explore the city, he asked me what specific places I like to go to. And I told him some places, which is not okay. I guess I had some sort of common sense to tell him places that were densely populated and weren't extremely specific. Like, for example, I said things like Times Square, etc. I didn't want to give him any specific locations because I think at that point I was kind of sensing that something was off, kind of keeping my guard up a little bit. But again, I don't know why I didn't just end it right there. It's honestly scary that he asked that, because if I were to give him specific places, he would know where to find me, or at least like try to find me at any given time. Then in some other convos, he would ask things like, how is school going, you know, am I stressed, like how are things with my family? While these convos were relatively short and they only happen semi-frequently, you could tell he was trying to get more information about me gradually because his questions got more personal. And the reason why he was trying to do that is that he was trying to find vulnerabilities in my life that he could try to use to his advantage, and also just evaluate my emotional state, because he will know the right times to say certain things. And his plan was working because I really thought that he cared about me. He would say things like, oh, well, you know, I'm always here for you. I care about you. I want you to be the best person that you can be, blah, blah, blah. He would say all of that. And it was working on me because I felt like I was getting closer to him. That is exactly how groomers try to get you. And that's not right. These convos went on for about a month until one fateful day. So my mom was obsessed with playing Candy Crush at this time. Like, she would literally drain her phone battery just playing it all day. Because she didn't have much to do since we were all at home for the summer. Beyond chores and just cleaning up the house, cooking for everyone, etc., she didn't have anything to do. So she would be playing on this game all day. Whenever her phone would die from playing Candy Crush, she would usually borrow someone else's phone to do that. On this day, she decided to borrow my phone. She asked me for it, and I was like, okay, I don't care, because we were at the point where she trusted me enough to not look through every single one of my text messages. So I was like, alright, here you go. I didn't watch her using my phone either because that would look so sus, and I didn't really think I had to hide anything. So I just went back into my room while she was in the kitchen playing Candy Crush. 10 minutes later, she calls me out into the kitchen. So I go, and I thought it was just so that, you know, she could give me my phone back. But I get to the kitchen and she is holding up my phone screen with the text from Coco on it. I had gotten a text from him while my mom was using my phone to play Candy Crush, and presumably she saw it and thought it was sus, so she checked it out. She asked me, is this your boyfriend? And I'm like, no, because obviously he wasn't. And then she goes to say all of these things like, why is he talking to you like this? He should not be calling you that because he's an adult. And then she kept going on to say how it was wrong for him to be doing that to me. And I think she honestly handled it in the best way that she possibly could have. At least better than I would have done in that case. She was definitely disappointed that I fell for it, but she didn't completely place the blame on me because she knew that it really was not my fault at the end of the day. So she confiscated my phone until my dad came home. Now, my dad didn't come home until 6 p.m. usually because he was working. And this happened during like the afternoon, so I'm gonna assume around 3-ish p.m. So I didn't have my phone for that amount of time until my dad came home. Which again was a smart move on her part because she obviously didn't want me talking to him about it, like, oh, they found out, what do we do, you know? While I obviously did not trust him that much to be doing some drastic decisions like running away, I think that it was still smart to do because she may not have fully known or understood the severity of it. And she was just being cautious about it, which I was very happy for. And even if I didn't trust him at that specific time, if it had gotten severe enough, I feel like I would have been more inclined to do something drastic. So my dad comes home and my mom tells him everything that happened and everything that I had told her. And what he says, he was silent for like a good 10 minutes after, but what he said right after he broke his silence was, I'm going to text him right now that I'm meeting him at Walgreens with my machete. Honestly, that's probably how I'd react to if I was a parent. Like, it's understandable to have that reaction. You want to protect your kid, obviously, and when there's someone trying to take advantage of them, you feel some type of way. Knowing myself, if I was ever a mom, I'd just be like, bet, let's jump this man. Knowing fully well that I cannot defend myself in a fight whatsoever, that's how strong my anger can be. Obviously, all of that is an exaggeration, but you get the message of it. So the three of us, my mom, my dad, and I, had a very in-depth discussion about it. We just sat down and talked about all of it. They were essentially just talking about how adults should not be trying to get close to me like that, and how this is all about my safety. It's not my fault, but they just want me to know this so that I can look out for it the next time that I do encounter something like this, if I ever do. They fully expressed their disappointment and their concern for my safety, which I completely understood. And to top it all off and end everything, they blocked his number on my phone. I'm glad that they actually explained the situation to me and why it was wrong. instead of simply just being like, this is wrong and you are stupid for falling for it, because that's obviously not very constructive and I don't learn anything from being told that I'm stupid. I'm also glad that it ended in the safest way possible with minimal damage, because it's scary to think about what could have happened if my mom hadn't asked me to play Candy Crush on my phone. As dark as it sounds, if it had progressed to a more severe situation, I don't know if I would be able to be telling this story right now in front of you. People just horrify me. I don't understand why you would want to take advantage of someone who is clearly vulnerable. It'll never make sense to me, but I just hope that everyone is protecting themselves out there, because any child can be a victim of this. It doesn't matter what gender, what age, anything. People can be even more at risk if they were in emotionally vulnerable situations like I was at that time. So please, everyone, just be careful out there. That is the end of the story time. I encourage you to share this with anyone who might need it, because I want to make any impact that I can by telling this. If I can help stop another situation like this happening, then that is more than enough for me. Stay safe, y'all. I'll talk to you next time.